Good. Oh, wait a second. I need to get rid of that real quick. We're not using that this morning. There we go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Sleep is not optional. Sleep is not optional. And if I hear that people are staying up all night to watch my stream, I'm gonna start banning people, doing periodic bans so that people won't get to see any streams. You all need to be sleeping. You all need to be sleeping. I'll be doing at least daily timeouts, and if I see that you're skipping sleep to watch my stream, then I will make it a permanent ban. I'm still considering unbanning Katamiya so that Katamiya will sleep. Now, if you are at work and you're not staying up for my stream, that is okay. But if you're staying up just to watch my stream, then it's not okay. Perfect, exactly. You don't have to be in every stream. You know what you can do? If you want my stream to play while you're sleeping, you can always just get my stream ready, and then when I go live, it will automatically start playing on your device. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. It's lovely to see you, my voidlings. I am LuckyJene, which I know all of you already know. But for those that you don't know, I'm a gambler, a writer, and soon to be villain. We're working on it, we're working on it. We'll get there eventually. Now, I do apologize, the stream started a little late. It turns out that I had my monthly break where my VTube studio, which runs the model and everything, decides to completely reset itself. So I have to do everything, reattaching the model, activating all of the stuff, getting everything running. Oh, by the way, I'm going to try to put captions on stream sometime. We'll see if it works. But yes, a boy failure villain, not successfully, which is the point. But yes, that's why it took me to fix everything. I had to go in, I had to turn on my model again, activate all of the plugins, and yeah, now here I am. I will stream every morning. If I don't, it's because I overslept extremely. But I'll be putting on better captions because I know the captions here are not very effective captions. They have difficulty subtitling me properly. So I'll be using a different system of captions eventually. Alright, for those of you new to the stream, every morning I go through and I congratulate the person who got first, second, and third. Then we say good morning to every person who checked in. And I can tell that we really messed up this time, didn't we? One sec. I'm also eating a little breakfast, so... Oh, that's the one thing I forgot. Thank you so much for the follow. Greatly appreciated. Here we go, you ready? First off, Nelia, thank you for getting third. Nelia, thank you for getting third. First. Talisima. Tally. Thank you for getting first. Second. And Luna Rain, thank you for getting second, except third. Proving once again that the voidlings can't count. But also, it was third, first, second. So clearly everybody hated getting the second. And now, to say good morning to everybody who's checked in. Thank you, Nelia. Thank you for checking in. Good morning, Carmia and Tally. Good morning, Poison. Good morning, Ghost Siren. Good morning, Danny Cat and Dwarf. Good morning, Buttertop. Good morning, Jay and Meow Kitty. Good morning, Brookie and Calenthia. Good morning, Izio and Brum Brum. Good morning, Xanax and Yoshihiko. Good morning, My Chemical Flame and Eli. Good morning, Alentia. Alright, Cinesap, you do good. Good morning, Oliver the Tiny Wizard and Pandragon and Julia. Good morning, Pacamon and Elliptical Panda and Solian. Good morning, Sunny of the Sunshine. Good morning, Mo Mia. Good morning, Day of the Balkan. Or is it Death He Balkan? Or Deathy Balkan? Or Death E Balkan? I don't know. Y'all need to put dashes in your names so I know where the spaces are. Good morning, Ocean. Good morning, Izio. Good night for the stretch. Good morning, Gibbets and Commodity and Vinny. Good morning, Okami, the vessel's wife. Welcome to the menagerie and thank you for the follow. Good morning, Kate and Microwave and Kimizu. Oh, hi, Kimizu. Good morning, Dar. Just for you, Dar. I'm such a good doggy. Good morning, Shiny and Jinx. And apparently we got bonked. And for all of you lovely new people, you're incredible. I appreciate you all so very, very, very much. I hope you enjoy your time here. And good morning, strawberries. Thank you. Did strawberries thank me? Why are strawberries thanking me? What did I do to be thanked by a strawberry? Interesting. Good night, Oliver. Good night. Mwah. And for everyone who needs to go to sleep, please feel free to do so. Get some sleep, eeps. Behave yourselves. So. Oh. If you see me moving my mouth and not talking, it is a good chance that I'm eating a little food, because I did just wake up. And my belly's hungry. I'm eating the leftover cheese pizza, which is so nice for breakfast. I just wish it didn't have such a strong tomato sauce on it. Alright. Now here's a little reminder. Today, on the TikToks and the YouTubes and everything, we're going to post it. We're going to post the kidnapping a sponsor video. I'm going to try to have it done around 1 o'clock or 1 p.m. MST or 3 p.m. EST. Remember, it's going to ask for it's going to tell you also instructions. All I need is as much interaction as possible. Good morning, Cinesaf. Thank you. I've already posted the TikTok yesterday asking for the help, but I want to let you all know as well. And good morning, Celine and Tasha and Lynx and Gacy. It should be fun. It should be fun. It should be great. Hopefully the TikTok does well. We'll see. Good morning, Duckiest Boat. I like your name. Thank you. If it works, we kidnap a sponsor. And if it doesn't work, well, that's gonna be lame. Exactly. Hello, Duckiest Boat. First post. I always stream at 3:30 a.m. I don't stream at 3, I stream at 3:30. You'll never lame? Well, even with... Oh, no, I'm not lame. I know I'm not lame. I'm saying it'll be lame if it doesn't work. Okay. I did not break stuff. Things broke on their own. This was not my fault. This is one of the things where I just open it. It's just like, hey, we've decided that this month, this is the time of the month where we're broken. Okay, thank you for the follow, Demonic. We're going to be doing some soft-spoken Minecraft again. Because unfortunately, the cleaning simulator game that I like doesn't have any more content. And nobody mods it. I cannot believe nobody's figured out how to mod that game. I want more of it. I'm so annoyed. It was perfect. It was perfect. You may ask me a question. There's also question redeems. Don't lay on your face to fall asleep. Put a pillow somewhere so you can get good breath. Alright, let's see. I mean, the game was fine, and the game was good. I just want more crime scenes to clean. It's not hard to say, Demonic. You're not the first person to try that. I am grumpy. It should have been longer. So annoyed. Could have been amazing. I think once we get this auto mining machine working, I might end up doing modded Minecraft a bit, because I like the one that has the magic abilities. But we're not going to play on hardcore, because I want to actually explore the magic and stuff. Hey, if this is so important to you, get ready to clip it. 5, 4, 3, 2. Rough. There you go. See, there's 2 games there's 3 actually that I really like. I'm waiting for, oh, that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, I'm waiting for the roguelike dungeons Minecraft mod. Because when that one comes out, it's very much more a, hopefully they're fixing the bugs with the second version. I want to do a hardcore. I don't know. There's that really hard Minecraft mod that people always talk about. My brain is gone right now. I can't remember the names. Why are we saying nerdy? Oh, hi, nerdy. I will give you pillows. Everyone gets pillows today. Oh, I love hardcore. Okay. Oh, I didn't have a chance to look up how these work yet. Oh no. Alright, 1 second. We're gonna Google this while we sit here. Thank you for the follow, Lotus Spirit. Welcome to the menagerie. Alright, let me mute. Well, I'm gonna watch this little video while we hang out here. Okay. We're gonna set it on to 5 times speed. That should be good enough. Sorry, 4 times speed. Okay. Interesting. Okay. I don't know how this is going to work exactly, but we're going to try to figure it out. We're going to try to figure it out. Is that a problem people have? Wait, makes you feel like an evil auntie after I give him bub cups? I'm so... Thank you for the stretch. Okay, so we're going to see how this is going to work. I can't tell if it needs to be like having a repeater signal sent to it, you know, a clock. So, you know, it hits it, it stops, it hits it, it stops, it hits it, it stops kind of thing. And if it does, then I'm going to be super happy that I put it way over in the back. Because that way it will be quiet enough that I don't have to worry about it. Okay. Let's be smart about this. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up a practice thing over here to see if I can figure out exactly how it works before I try to build it back there. Okay. Anyways, so tell me y'all, how'd y'all sleep? Who's waking up? Who's going to bed? And why, pray tell, do you like starting your morning or ending your day with me? Well, get some sleep now. Oh, lucky you. So you got what, 6 hours of sleep then? Oh, pests are awful. Did you know if you have like an apartment or you have a place with an HOA, a lot of times pest control is actually included. So if you get ants, yeah. Okay, so here's the first thing we're gonna try. I want to see where it pops out the stuff. Okay. We're gonna see exactly what it does when we start. So my hope is I load it into the side and it works. Oh, I'm glad I make you feel protected. So I will make sure never to threaten you. Even if it would be funny. Oh, that's adorable. I'm glad I can be of help. I do not threaten you, Gibbets. I promise to protect you. Alright, I think I need some bamboo, and I think I might be out of bamboo. It makes your brain work better. Your brain works better when I'm... That's really sweet, actually. I'm a little worried here. Why are you not growing higher? Alright, here's what we're gonna do. Taking you out to replace you with a glowstone. There we go. Thank you for the follow, Lena. It's kind of funny how many people have names that are just like really long. You know what I mean? I see a lot of people with names that are just like one letter repeated a lot. Is that a common thing now? It used to be the X underscore or like the XXX underscore XXX. Oh, good. I'm glad I could help you. Wow. Wow, Katarina. Rude. You don't watch a lot of quiet VTubers. Yeah, they're kind of all gremlin coded, aren't they? Oh, okay, so I'm about to run something by y'all. I've been thinking about it, but I'm not sure. There is a thing, a studio called HoloLive. They're a big VTuber group, right? And they've just started doing applications. Thank you for the follow, welcome to Mashery. Now here's the thing. They're a big corpo. So it's pretty beneficial, you know, to get with them. So, the problem is, if I were to get, like, I could apply for the corporation, right? I could get in with this corporation. But, if I do that, and it could potentially make more money, it could potentially make less money. LuckyJene would be gone. And HoloLive is pretty practical. I'd have new roles to follow, and this stream would be gone. I'd just disappear one of these days. I mean, I could kind of like hint to people where I'm going, and they would see that a new VTuber came back. That's the thing of like, while I do like the idea of like corporations and all that, because, you know, it'd be nice to start, I don't think it would benefit me much, honestly. I think we're growing at a steady pace. Yes, so the way that HoloLive works, that's the thing, like, I would have to be a character as well. Because the way HoloLive works is they have pre-made models. You audition for them, and then they say, oh, okay, we want you to play this character. This is going to be your archetype kind of thing. It's like applying for any other Vital group. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, I don't know if it would benefit me. That's one of the reasons why I'm like, it sounds really cool. It does sound really cool, but yeah. I think it's one of those things of like, would it make the dream of VTubing being full-time a thing immediately? Maybe. But what would I lose? Yeah. I think my one issue is this. And this is me going to be really real with you all. When March comes around, I may or may not have a job that I currently have. And doing content creation full-time would be an absolute dream. But there's no guarantee by March being here that I'll be anywhere near and close enough to sustaining myself. Now, would Hololive be sustainable guaranteed? Not necessarily. Would Hololive hire me on quick enough for it to matter? Not necessarily either. Who knows? Something I've been thinking about. Because I'm not sure what I'm going to do if my contract ends in March. I mean, I might have to give up streaming completely while I try to find like part-time work or something just to make ends meet. We'll see, we'll see. But that's just me being like honest with y'all right now. This will be the one time I talk about this because I don't want you all to worry about me. Yeah, that's why one of the things I want to do is that sponsorship idea. Because if I can do the sponsorship stuff, then there's always the chance. What is that noise? Oh no. Oh, they're back, aren't they? Yeah. Well, that's the thing also though, like I make really good money at my current job. That's why I'm able to currently live on my own and all that kind of stuff. Even if I get a new job, I can't guarantee it's going to give me the funding I need to maintain like I currently am. And if the job doesn't pay enough, then streaming would be completely over. Because I won't have the time. Yeah. I agree, I agree. Just here's the thing. I will not go anywhere. I'll not go anywhere. Corpo is probably not an option. Because the more that I talk about it now, I mean, like, it would actually probably be more detrimental because I would have to go. I would have to, you know, wait for them to want to announce me. And during that time, I'm not going to be earning any money. So yeah. I'll still be here. It might just be in a lot less fashion when March comes around, we'll see. Nah, that's fine. I mean, your voice is still yours. Because once you, like, graduate, they will allow you usually to come back as somebody else. You just don't get to keep your model and stuff. Which is understandable. Yeah, it's a while away, but it's getting closer every day. Why do you feel bad about being born in March? My baby sister is born in March. Time doesn't work. I refuse to believe it works. Prove it right now. Prove to me time is real. Nothing but the president exists. I know. I mean, worst case scenario, I can survive for like a few months. That's fair enough. I'm doing you sleep. Worst scenario, I can survive for a few months after I lose the job. And I feel like in 6 months I could make enough to struggle and make it. We'll see. Depending on if partners pick me up. Sponsorships. Oh, no, it's fine. Life is full of problems. You learn, you grow, you deal with them. I'll always keep going forward. I'll always exist. I'll always keep doing things. Just because there's problems does not mean that anything will stop. Please don't talk about black holes. Please do not talk about black holes. That's going to give me an existential crisis. No, I've not made partner. I'm getting close. We're getting closer and closer. I mean, I can't even make partner yet, though, because they reset the partner requirements. And the partner requirements take you 2 months before you technically can qualify. So nobody has gotten partner within the last this month and next month. The earliest people will be able to get partner will be starting in January. Which, hey, we're getting closer. Actually, it's starting in December. If I had hit the numbers in October, but we're only on day 11 of day 13 of November, and we've already hit 2 days that we needed. So. That's why I need y'all to interact with the TikTok today, because we can get our first sponsor. I mean, partner's not really going to help me make ends meet. It's just going to be a badge. Because they changed the split based on how many subs you get paid out. Individual subs. It might help me make sponsors easier, though. That's the only thing I can think. Have you not been growing all the way? Oh no, there'll be a new TikTok. There's going to be a TikTok today. There'll be a TikTok being posted today. That's what I need the interaction with. I'm just preparing you all for that one. Yeah, that's true. Oh, and also, like, that's why when you're starting out, so let me educate you also on behind the scenes things. One of the things that you're going to want is called a press package. A press package is going to give like a general view of like who you are. It's going to list your numbers so that potential sponsors can see like how well you can possibly do. What was I needing? Oh, right. I'm not sad. I am not sad. Y'all, I'm good. I am good. I'm happy. I'm a lovely streamer. I am talented. I enjoy my streams a lot. Y'all don't have to worry about me. Hey, Lost Soul. It's been a little while. Sorry, you just wanted me to call you Lost or Soul, but you know. I'm happy. You don't have to worry about me. I swear. In worst case scenario, like even if anything goes horribly bad for me, and by horribly bad I mean like lose my job, have nothing, I still have family I can move back in with. Streaming makes enough money that if I did have to move back in at home, I could probably just pay my debts off and then rent would be covered by my parent. Which maybe even that's better. Maybe that'll give me a chance to try to be a content creator. Or maybe that'll be worse because my parent will want me to do a bunch of stuff with them. But no matter what, I have options. I have options, and I will always keep making content, and I will keep streaming, and everything will be okay. I promise, I'm not going anywhere. Not yet. Okay. Let's see how this works. I don't know where I need to put in the power for this thing. I'm assuming on the side here. Oh, yeah, those are probably broken because Twitch broke this morning. The Twitch integrations and all that stuff broke this morning. I'll fix it later. Do I not have enough redstone for this? Oh no. Oh, come on, what? We need to go find more redstone. Honestly, I don't know if it does. We'll find out. Wait, what's a comparator? Oh, gotcha. I'm proud of you. You're doing amazing. Okay. Okay, we're gonna go make some iron pickaxes so I can go hunting for redstone. I need a compass so I can actually get home. A 2-person per stream. Okay. We're gonna do this. Finally, we won't get lost. Finally, we won't get lost. Wait, where does the compass point? Does it point to your spawn? I need to get a lodestone, don't I? No, okay. I think I have a lodestone somewhere though. This should be good. Because it's either we have a lodestone already, or we need to find one, in which case, thank you for the lurks. Thank you. In which case I would need to go all the way. I'd have to go to the nether and find a netherite ingot. Yes. That's cheating. If the game intended me to use navigation coordinates, it wouldn't put it in the game all the time. But how is my character supposed to know navigation coordinates? We have a device specifically made to find my way. I'm not going to use the stupid coordinates because they're dumb. Oh, hey, look, I have a lodestone. Isn't that cool? I could also just use the compass to get back to spawn and then do that. So yeah, no. Oh, he doesn't know where to put the pumpkin. Oh, Honey Bunch, I'm so sorry I didn't tell you where to put the pumpkin. It's okay. Here. You put the pumpkin in the chest. You got this. There you go. Okay. We'll keep the wood just in case, because we always need more wood. Don't need glowstone. Bone meal we don't need right now. Keep the iron just in case. We have wood already, so we don't need that. We'll toss the leather. Don't need the quartz. Don't need this. Bucket is good. We'll fill it with water before we leave. And keep a furnace on me. Keep a sword on me. Good, we just need to make some more torches before we leave. Okay. I'm out of coal. We'll need to find some coal. Okay, I think we're ready. Now we can make some iron picks. Alright. And lastly, okay. Y'all ready? It's time to go find some redstone. Skirt, skirt, yeet, yeet. You never loved me. Well, that's a good omen. Hey, that's a really good omen. Picks random spot, immediately that's diamond. Nah, there's signs of good things coming. I believe redstone, the idea was like copper. So it was like copper wiring, but then they actually made copper. they had to make it uniquely redstone because copper doesn't generate electricity. If you want a low effort way to cook eggs, take them into a cup. You're going to scramble them up, put them in the microwave, and cook for about a minute. I think it's a minute. Do not try to boil them in the microwave. They can explode. They will explode, actually. I think we'd probably use more redstone than this, so we're gonna keep cooking. Might be like 2 minutes. Or if you'd rather, you can also, like, a good way if you want to like scrambled eggs, you know, scramble them up, add milk and your seasoning, and then throw them in the microwave. Poached eggs would work too, wouldn't it? We just need to pour it out. No, okay. No. I would never judge you for that. I am happy you all eat. As long as you're eating, I don't care how you eat it. Getting calories itself, you know, getting food in you can be sometimes the hardest part. And I understand that. That's fair. You don't have to. You don't have to eat eggs. Okay, we're at 41. We gotta be done sooner than I thought. Wait, what did you make? What did you do? Carmia. Oh, iron. Oh. Oh, and I feel that's again, I think that redstone was copper, but then they actually made copper. Oh. The only way I can see them justifying eggs would be if they were doing home-raised eggs, because for some people, vegan is exclusively... I would never forget Karamia's name. I like calling you Karamia. I just wanted to say, instead of saying Karamia, I say Karamia. Enunciate it differently. Yeah, animal welfare. If you were to have home-raised eggs, they would technically fall into that category of an item made without, you know, cruelty. But you can't guarantee that with store-bought eggs. Well, you know, ignorance is bliss, I suppose. Exactly. Mm. people order things that are like, this thing clearly has like animal in it. Yeah, exactly. Would you prefer I called you mein Schatz? Geht das besser? Well, yeah. I mean, if you raise your own eggs. Mein Shaft. Hey, y'all, it's my least favorite mob. Meine Liebe. Wait, why were you washing the eggs? Who made you wash the eggs? Your favorite mob's the Enderman? Oh, they washed that part off. Okay. Some people wash off the coating. Do you know that's why the eggs in the US have to be refrigerated? Because we wash off any of the coatings. That a lot of places eggs are just left on the shelf and last so long. All the states they don't. Oh, that's crazy. I hope you're okay. My diamond, no. I feel like I was in Steven Universe. Yep, the cloaca. Get anything fun in there? My diamond. Yeah, but I mean, you can always wash it when you need to eat it. Instead of, and you also don't eat the shell. Cloaca is the first word you heard me speak. I've been talking for quite a while. Why is this the first word you heard me speak? Yes. I mean, I don't know if it is canonic, but I mean, they gotta be. They're hermaphroditic. They have all sex organs. Oh, when you first arrive, the first word. Why do I say cloaca more than once every like 8 months? I should not be saying these words. That's crazy. Well, I'm glad you remember. I don't think I need string right now, but I will take these rails. That feels like the opposite of what you should have done. You should have been like, oh, gross. Maybe not. Hi, Yuki. I'm doing great. I still haven't fixed all my sound issues yet, though. Not that I think they're noticeable when I stream. I'm not going to point them out because then people are going to start thinking about them. That is because you don't hear the recording. I will point it out to you some point. No, that's fair, that's fair. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't stream. Never stream. Streaming is the worst. Who streams? Kidding. I love streaming. You can never make me stop. Even if you wanted to. What are quick charges? Apple. I need the zombie meat. I need it. You don't understand that I need the zombie meat. What if I become a zombie? Then what am I gonna do? Not have zombie meat? I need it. Gene, how much of your life do you live just to antagonize Carmilla? Good question, good question. I would like to say I plead the fifth. Ooh, no Jinx, I know what that's like, I know what that's like. And the only fix is keep playing random games until the things start being fun again. I would never. I also have to know the other mods as well. Don't be recognizing nap time's new dorks. That's crazy. That's crazy to me that you immediately recognize that nap has a new twerk. Congrats on the new twerk, nap time. That one's bouncing on it. Hello, Marquis. Mary Kiss Designs. And hello, Chubb. Welcome. Thank you for bringing in a shrimp with you. Kiss me. Just go to bed. You don't need to be awake. Being awake is most definitely not needed. There we go. That's future me's problem. Sure, I can say that. Hey, relax, my sweet boy. Just focus on breathing and slowly drift off to sleep. How did you eat your braid? What? Close your eyes. Relax. You're safe here. It is so nice having this compass. Almond milk is not bad. As long as you're not only drinking almond milk, you should be drinking water. Alright, how are we doing on everything? Brick myself in this corner real quick. And get bricked in this corner real quick. I feel like I wanted to do something. Oh, I need to make an anvil. Yep, that's enough for an anvil. Yep, okay. I think it's time. Are we distracting? No, you're good. Iron A. What are the chances of that? Thank you for the follow, Royal Bloodhound. Welcome to the menagerie. I want to make it, but I'm gonna check some. Yeah, I did roast veggies as well. I roast some veggies, and it was really good. You kind of need to have veggies. We're like, you're not supposed to have veggies. I'm like, I'm not eating a meal without veggies. I like veggies. Veggies are good for you. Are you really gonna make bacon? Crazy. Fair enough. I want to see it. It's simple enough that, like, there's no reason not to, you know? Y'all send me pictures of Brickin'. Post the Brickin' on Twitter. If you don't have Twitter, you can send it to me and I'll post it on Twitter. I'll make a compilation of everybody's Brickin'. Don't make hot dickles. Do not make hot dickles. Please do not make hot dickles. Is it good? I do not believe you. I do not believe you. There's no way a hot dickle is good. That's a culinary sin that I will happily never know. I will happily never know. Family graphs, but hey, you don't know, maybe I was neutered. putting myself to sleep. That's not good. I don't have the right organs for that one. I know digging straight up can be dangerous, but I'm tired of waiting. I want to get to the top ready. Well, so the main danger is not lava, it's something falling into the hole. What? I'd love a cookie, actually. Ooh, is that iron? That's fair. Minecraft, you definitely need to make your own projects. You know, now that I have the compass, I can actually go on adventures and stuff, can't I? Maybe I'll go a little exploring. See if we can find like a boat or something and find some cool stuff. I wonder if it works in the Nether. Hi, Wolfie. Well, you should play whenever I stream it. That's the goal, Demonic. That is the goal. Do you have any empanadas? Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know we had empanadas. Love me a good empanada. Okay. Good morning. There we go. Last slice of pizza. Thank you for the follow. One second. I need to, yeah. 1 second. Okay, we're back. Yeah. Sorry. Hi, Nixie. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the menagerie. I hope you enjoy your time here. Yeah. Okay, we're good. We're good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Oh, why is the dirt here? The dirt should be in a different spot. 1 sec. Yeah, we're doing pretty good. How are you doing? Everything is going very, very grand. I'm excited to attempt something today. Alright, do we have everything here? Okay, the lapis is going in there. Okay, that's where the lapis should go. Take out some wood, because I'd probably want to make a wood chest at some point. Ooh, stone. Stone needs to go in its own chest. Okay. Oh, well, good to know, good to know. There's too much stuff. Yes. I'll worry about us later. My inventory management is so bad. Well, don't worry. I'm going to get everything set up eventually. The important bit, though, is to get this working out here. Yeah, eventually. I think I really like the background noise of stuff happening. God, Mia, you're not allowed to be old. You're always going to be young forever. That's valid, that's valid. Oh, why are you here? Oh, I love painted nails. I like painted nails. Him. Let's take care of this real quick. Come on, baby girl. Take a look at me. There you are. Come on. A po box? What do you mean a po box? He's gone. Oh, P.O. Box. Got you. Why are you wanting to send me something? Wow, my butt. Oh, what do you want to send me? Well, P.O. Box is in the works. That is way low on my priority list right now. Not a surprise. Fair enough. Oh, it's a surprise. I would love that. I would love postcards. The only thing I cannot be sent is food, because weirdos have made that a dangerous thing. Exactly. Well, stop being up. Have you tried sleeping? You can send me recipes, but you can do that now, actually. All right. I just want a chest to put things in right now, so we're just going to use this. There we go. Okay. A little bit depositing. Throwing the diamonds in there. Don't need the redstone right this second. There we go. Okay, we're back. Why is his voice so deep? Just is. Just is. I was born that way. Brain's gone. My brain is absolutely gone. I am fabulous. Thank you for noticing. Thank you for noticing. Okay. So the question is, if I set up a repeater, a little clock here. Yeah, I chose it to be dumb. Okay, one second. Okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. That was so stupid. Why did that make me laugh? I'm alright. I'm alright. No, we can't lick people. No licking people. Do not lick new people. Yeah, I had to mute while I laugh. No biting new people either. That doesn't work. Okay, no. Wait, how's this supposed to work? Bite does not equal like. Oh, come on. Give me a nice picture here. Oh, interesting. Okay. Place it and break what? Oh. Okay. 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 We're halfway there. Because everybody has a licking emote. I don't have one. I'm not special enough to have a licking emote. I'm sorry, guys. I'll get one eventually. One. We do need a cage emote. Okay, you ready? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. It took back in the thing and changed it so it didn't actually release it. Ooh. Interesting. Okay, we're almost there. What if I put a funnel underneath it? Would it immediately pull it out? Thank you for the follow, Milky. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I refuse. Thank you for checking in and thank you for coming in. Greatly appreciated. It's something happened last night. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the menagerie. What are we halfway there to? Oh, congrats. Don't lick new people. It's just a, here I can show you. It's a pre-made one. I found it online. Somebody did make me one though. I might use that. Eventually. Welcome home, Dar. Welcome home. Just a little reminder, by the way, people. We usually do a late stream, like we'll do a longer running stream on Fridays. That is not going to be able to happen this week. And we might not have an evening stream tomorrow. Just a little heads up. But we will be having 2 evening streams today. I need more stuff. We'll be doing a normal evening stream and we'll be having a significantly later collab evening stream. Can't know work is making me going on Friday. Thank you for the biddies. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Which Darksiders did you beat? Okay, here's the plan. Ideally, I'll put this here. Okay. So here's the problem. Will it let them out? Or will it not? Let's find out. That's just going straight through. Fine. Alright, let's watch this video. Of course, I'm glad I can make your mornings bearable. Oh wait, it spits things out the front, so do I have it facing the wrong direction? Oh, wait a second. Okay, we're gonna try this. Hi, princess. Oh, so it's feeding, okay, okay. Okay. This might be perfect. This might just be done. Because if it's just done, then it's just done. Let's go get bamboo. We're going to try it one more time. Oh, thank you. I'm looking forward to Cowboy Gene. It looks super cool. I like working with redstone. Don't bite me. Why do you play it that old, Avery? I actually don't know what version we're on now. I assume that's older than the one I'm playing on. Might be wrong. Here we go, you ready? Here we go. You're working, right? Perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it should be loaded up, right? Alright, here we go. 9. Flawless. Oh, we don't even need anything else. We don't need anything else. So all we do is this. We're gonna put a little catcher. Very simple. Hopefully this will work like I want it to. Okay. We ready? It is time. And it worked. And now, we have these bamboo blocks. Okay. Perfect. Let me see how long it takes to stuff. No. Okay, we're doing good. Perfect. So it looks like everything takes around 10 seconds to smelt. And bamboo will burn for 15 seconds, meaning that one bamboo block will always be enough to smelt at least one ore. Meaning my permanent fuel source can work. And I need to do nothing else. Sleep well, be good. This should be it. I'm so excited. We're almost there. We're almost there. This is so goofy. This is so goofy. I kind of love it though. I might make another one of these. I might make my own bamboo farm because I like using the bamboo one. Also, if I'd known about this, can you imagine those early world builds where I was underground and I had the bamboo, where I couldn't come out? I would have never needed to farm the bamboo. It would have just kept making itself into blocks all the time. Ah, that's so cool. Alright, I'm excited. I like a lot of like how it has the Japanese theming with a lot of the stuff. Like it has more like elegant work that can work with stuff. It's not my all-time favorite wand, but it has some cool stuff that it can make. Don't eat in class. Don't eat in class. Mm-hmm. Nap time. Please tell me you don't drink a Celsius every day. Wait. I know that emote. I love that emote. Hello, alien. Oh, get some sleep. By the way, if Carmia ever sees you slacking and saying you're not going to go to class, I've already given them permission to time anybody out because sleep is very important, and so is going to school, whether it's college or whatever. So understand that if you ever get timed out because you said, hey, I'm going to skip class, yeah, Carmia has full permission to do that. I forgot to replant the cocoa seeds. We need to go get more cocoa seeds. Scripts. I can't remember. Did we finish the scripts or not? Because I still need to record them. Also, I still owe you money for the continuation of the one script. Because I couldn't pick which one. I just have to do a call and figure out where we're at some point. There we are. Education is important. But beefy steaks are more important. I don't know why I thought about beefy steaks. I want beefy steaks. You may not have money. I will not give you my money. It's my money. I also want to make a little library. I love having the compass. This is so cool. Suddenly the game feels like a lot more less restrictive, you know? Because every time I went out, I felt like a little bit of panic about, you know, trying to find where I was again. And I'd get lost, and then I'd lose all my stuff, especially when I was in the mines. That's understandable. I totally get that. And because a creeper, honestly, like, is probably one of the least enjoyable things to play with. And I would feel like most players would be like, oh, adding an explosive thing that destroys your stuff when the entire point of this game is building? That's stupid. Why would we allow that? But I like it. No, it's not that it's not easy. It's just like, it seems very anti-game, like, player. Like, very anti-player. Which is the point. I mean, like, it was cool to have an enemy. But most, like, game logic would tell you not to make something like the creeper. I like hugs. I'm very good at hugging. And that's my opinion on hugs. I'm very good at them. And I like creepers. Do funnels work from cauldrons? Could I funnel out the lava into a bucket somehow? Or dispense the lava from the bucket? Oh, it's so goofy. My base is so plain. I really need to make it nicer eventually. This is just more of a functional base than anything. You know what? Yeah. My brain just shut off. I give up. Nope, no brain. Brain gone. Oh yeah, no, and I think the Creeper's an amazing mob. But like, if you were to go through like gamer logic, it would not have been made, and I get why it wouldn't have been. Oh, time check. Yep, nope, I gotta go. I gotta go, lovelies. It has been a lovely, 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 lovely stream. But I gotta get to work. So we're gonna find somebody we can raid out to real quick. Do you have any new ASMR people we can raid? Oh, Hoshi's doing ASMR. Go check out Hoshi. Oh, there's also the practical magic. That was loud. Okay, we're not doing that. Hi, chat. Go say hi to Hoshi. Let Hoshi know that I had to raid and run. Alright, y'all be lovely. You be amazing. Copy that raid message. I'll see y'all later, okay? Mwah, 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 mwah.